Does it ever get any easier? So you're learning to trade, or you've been learning to trade for a little bit of time, and you are finding it incredibly difficult. Most likely, it's one of the most difficult things you've ever had to do in your life. Now that is very surprising because all you're really doing is finding places to buy and sell on the charts. Now, as you go along, as you become a more proficient trader, is it ever going to get any easier? That's exactly what I'm going to look at in this video today. What I'm going to do is sort of take you through what I consider the three phases, or the three pillars, whatever you want to call it, of learning to trade. So the stages that you have to go through. I'm going to break down the stages, and I'm also going to try and give a little bit of a timeline for each of the stages, because what I find a lot of the time is the difficulty comes from people having unrealistic expectations and putting too much pressure on themselves. And then as we run through the stages, when we get to stage 3, I will explain to you if trading ever gets any easier. So the first two stages are tied together. They are absolutely unavoidable. You are going to have to go through them, and they are incredibly difficult. Now the third stage is optional. Very few people ever move on to the third stage. And the third stage includes consistent profitability. That's where you all want to get to. So we're going to run through each of those stages. Now the first stage is when you find your trading plan. We're not even going to cover the portion before that time, because it's no man's land. You're not really doing anything, you're not really gaining any solid experience. So once you have your trading plan, that is stage 1. Now, the mistake here is that people tend to think, I've got my trading plan, now I'm going to be consistently profitable. And it's a fair assumption, because naturally you think to yourself, I've moved on now, I've got my plan, I've started to put structure around myself, surely it's a certainty that I'm going to be a trader. Now that is not the case, and it's really dangerous to come into trading with that attitude. One of the main problems that sort of magnifies that belief is when you see people saying, take my course, you can be financially free in 3 months, in 6 months, whatever it may be, because it makes it a certainty that you're going to get to that finish line. You cannot approach the markets like that. So when you get your trading plan, what happens next? You have to learn and internalize that trading plan. You have to know it so well that at any moment when you're watching the market, you know exactly, is this an entry? Is this something I should skip? When I'm in the trade, what am I supposed to be doing? And that takes time. Just to internalize your trading plan is going to take at least 6 months. Now that sounds like a long time, but it is through experience, through my own experience, and through working with others, it's going to take you 6 months. Now, on top of that, you have to realize that you're working in financial markets which are constantly changing. So, although 6 months seems like a long time to internalize your trading plan, really, to start to understand the markets, it's going to take a year. Why is it going to take a year? Because the markets are always changing. Volatility is always changing. Sometimes the markets are making huge movements. Sometimes they're making very small movements. Sometimes they're in a bullish trend. Sometimes they're in a bearish trend. Sometimes they're ranging. Sometimes there's news events that come out and create chaos in the markets for a week or 2 weeks. You have to experience those things, and you have to get used to implementing your trading plan throughout those events. And that takes time. It takes experience. There is no way to fast forward that. Why is that important? Because you're probably putting too much pressure on yourself. Trading is already incredibly difficult. You have to allow yourself the time to learn. So minimum with your trading plan, it's going to take 6 months. It's going to be difficult, you're going to make lots of mistakes. The key point here is protect yourself. You can do a lot of that learning on a demo account, because when you're just learning the ABCs of a trading plan, you don't really need to implement the emotional side of trading yet, which comes with live trading. So you can do that on a demo account, you can protect yourself. And then when you are fully happy with the trading plan and your ability to understand it and implement it, then you can move on to live trading. And unfortunately, for at least another 6 months, which takes you up to the year, you are most likely not going to make money. So that's a year. Seems like a very, very long time stretching out in front of you. But trading has a huge failure rate. And the reason for that is because people try to go too fast. They have those unrealistic expectations. So all they're doing is they're taking the pressure of trading and they're adding in all this extra pressure that they're giving to themselves. Because they can see that so many people fail at this, but they say to themselves, I'm going to be different, I'm going to do it quickly. So that's the first stage. If you want to make it easier for yourself, accept that it's going to take time to learn. The fastest I've ever seen consistency, and I mean genuine consistency that lasts at least 6 months, has started around about the 1 year mark. Now there's obviously going to be flukes, random people who just come and they can just do it. It's a tiny minority. Most likely, you watching this video, it's going to take you that 1 year period, experiencing the market, learning your trading plan, seeing the markets going through the ranges, the different kind of trends it has, the volatility increasing and decreasing, and you start to build an understanding. It's like driving. When you first start driving, you're not comfortable. You know, some of the gear changes you miss. Sometimes you stall at the lights. Sometimes you are in somebody's blind spot, or someone's in your blind spot and you don't see them when you pull out in front of them. Those are things that come through experience, and you have to give yourself the time to build that experience. Now, the second pillar of trading. Unfortunately, this second pillar is going on usually right alongside the first pillar as soon as you get into trading live, and it's the emotional side of trading. This, for a timeline, can be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's completely different for every person. So the emotional side of trading is dealing with uncertainty. It's dealing with losing money through uncertainty, because every time you take a trade, you don't know what's going to happen. So if you don't know what's going to happen, there's a lot of risk associated with it, and that builds up inside you. And then if you have a loss, it can seem like you've made mistakes. It can seem like you're doing stupid things. It can seem like you're throwing your money away. The emotional side of trading is by far the most difficult thing to overcome. But if you've taken your time in stage 1, you've learned your trading plan, you've started to get used to the markets, and you've done it safely, then it allows you to focus solely on the emotional responses. And what you're doing with this is you're trying to learn little by little. When you make mistakes, when you emotionally trade, you run through it, you note it in your diary, you figure out your weaknesses, you figure out your strengths, and then you learn to combat them. And you do it little by little by little. And you'll start to see yourself making that climb. I'm getting a little bit better here. You know, maybe I went 2 weeks without making any stupid mistakes. I went a month without making any stupid mistakes. And then you get to the third step, the final step to consistency when you're trading. And what happens with this one? From my experience, what happens is it's almost like, imagine you've been climbing up a mountain, the face of a mountain, and you're climbing up this mountain and you keep slipping back down. That's your emotional trading, it's your mistakes, it's your frustration. And then you start again and you climb up again and you slip back down again. Now for most people, they stay on the face of the mountain and they just keep doing it over and over and over again. They're never learning, they're never progressing. If you want to go into the third stage, what needs to happen is you start to look at trading differently. And it's almost like a switch in your head, it just changes. Instead of looking at trading in terms of, I want to make money really quickly, you start to look at trading in terms of what you have already achieved and what you have already done. It is so important. And it usually comes after a good period. Maybe you've gone that 1 month without any mistakes. And you can see, this is my first month of profitability where I've not used emotional trading to get me there. It's the first proper trading month. Maybe it's the second month. You've had 2 months of doing this. And what happens is you start looking at it differently. You start sitting down at the computer, and instead of thinking, I'm scared of the uncertainty, I'm scared of what's going to happen here, I'm scared of making more mistakes, you start looking at what you've already achieved, and you start thinking, I don't want this to be for nothing. I've put in so much work. Maybe it's been 18 months, 2 years. I'm finally starting to see results. I'm finally starting to figure out ways to overcome my emotional trading. I don't want to slip back down again. I don't want to have to start again. And it just grows little by little. 1 month becomes 6 weeks. It becomes 2 months, 3 months. And the further you go, the easier it becomes in terms of you don't want to go back to how you were before. Imagine a piece of elastic on your back trying to pull you back. Eventually, the elastic will snap. And you can continue going the way you were going. And it's built on the foundation of what you have already learned. It's built on the foundation of not wanting to run through those emotional periods where you feel miserable and where you give everything back to the market. And when you get to that stage, that's when the consistency continues to build. So does it get any easier? It gets easier in terms of you know what to do when you're trading. Now you understand the markets better. You aren't just guessing about trades. You've put in the work, you're disciplined, you've got control mostly of your emotions. I don't mean that you're not going to have emotional responses. I mean that you can control them. Does it get easier in terms of your emotions? No. It is still incredibly difficult. When you have losses, yeah, it still hits you hard. When you have runs of losses, it's still incredibly difficult to deal with. That's always going to be there with you as a trader. It's unavoidable. You have to decide if you can accept those as part of your day-to-day life. And if you can, then absolutely great. You can trade effectively, but you have to go through the first 2 stages, unavoidable. Then you have to get to the 3rd stage. To get to the 3rd stage, you just have to keep following your plan. You have to be working on it every day, determined to improve a little bit more. You're noting down your trades. You're noting down the weaknesses in your trades. Well, I should really have had more profit on these last 10 trades because that's what my results are telling me. These 2 trades here that I took, it was a little bit of frustration. And then going into the next trades, you build plans to stop that happening again. You build plans to get the most profit out of your particular trades that you're taking. You build plans to stop you making the stupid mistakes. You get away from the screen. You take breaks. After 2 losses, you shut down for the day, whatever it may be. And those are the kind of steps that most people don't take. And as you start to take them, you start to get a little bit further up the face of that mountain each time you come to the computer and you start trading. And eventually, you get so high and you're so close to the peak that you are absolutely determined not to fall again. And that's when the switch happens in your head. You're no longer just sitting down at the computer. Instead, you're building on your foundation. You've already done all this work. It's already there. You don't want to let it be for nothing. And that allows you to trade effectively. It allows you to separate yourself when you have that emotional response because, yeah, I've had a loss, it feels terrible, I really want to make that money back, but look how much I've achieved. Do I want to risk taking this emotional trade and spiraling and the losses increasing? If you still have mistakes, it allows you to then have the mistake and then get away from the computer rather than snowballing into lots of mistakes. So does it become easier? It becomes easier in terms of what you are doing and your understanding of what you are doing. The emotions are still going to be there, but you are going to grow as a person and you're going to learn how to effectively manage them. Okay guys, so as always, I hope that was helpful. Hopefully it helps some of you guys focus on what it is that you're doing, take some of the pressure off of your shoulders, especially if you're looking to do it too quickly. If you think you're not going anywhere, hopefully that's giving you a little bit of a roadmap of the stages that people need to go through when they're learning to trade. I hope you all have a great trading week, trading month. We're now into February already. I'm James Orr, and thank you.